Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, we have an amazing guest joining us once again. Welcome back, Bruce Lowe. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
I am so happy to have you back on the show. Today, we're going to be talking about Innovating Hail Insurance. Before we dive in, Bruce, can you tell our audience more about who you are and your role with AgDirect Hail?
Sure. I started with AgDirect back in 2014. This is our 10-year anniversary, and I'm the executive vice president, so I kind of oversee all things AgDirect.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to be talking about Hail Insurance 101 and then really moving to Innovating Hail Insurance. We had you on, oh boy, about a year or two ago, somewhere back then. And I know things have changed. So do you address the elephant in the room? You left AgDirect Hail, right?
Sure. I actually left for about a year, Tracy, and to put it as simply as I can, AgDirect was really built on customer relationships, customer focus. Everything was about the customer, and ownership just seemed to want to move away from that a little bit.
Okay.
And it just stopped feeling right to me and candidly to some of the other team members. So we lost our claims manager, our claims coordinator, our general manager. My two daughters work for the company, and we all kind of got in this boat of like, you know what, if it's not feeling right anymore, if it's not about the customer, we're going to have to just check out. But fortunately for the organization, for hardworking farmers in particular, AgDirect was sold to Hub International this past year.
Oh, good. Yeah, that can be hard sometimes when there's changes like that. So you're back, and there's some of the team members back with you as well?
Well, absolutely. So what happened, Tracy, in a nutshell, so Hub bought AgDirect, and then they called me back up in November of this past year and said, would you be interested in coming back and sitting in the captain's seat again? And I said to them that they would have to assure me of two things. One, they would have to assure me that I could make it about the customer again. And we can do what we always did, and that is focus on great competitive rates, compelling customer service, and superior claims handling. Those were kind of the three pillars of what we did and what we did really well. And I said, if you're going to guarantee me that we can focus on that, and I can bring some of the teammates back that were a part of that whole wonderful experience with AgDirect, then I'm up. And they said, do what you want, Bruce. It's if you want. So Hub is very much. I don't know if do you know Hub at all? Hub International.
They're
a big company.
Yeah, they're big.
Good. Yeah, they're fifth largest brokerage in the world. They've got 60 offices across the prairies, Tracy. So, and they have, so they have all those local offices that sell a lot of property, casualty insurance. So they really are embedded in the communities of the prairies, of prairie farmers. So this is just an extension of what they do. It's a perfect fit for them. And as I said, their reputation for focusing on the customer is for me and the rest of the team just so heartwarming that we can get back to what we really love to do. So it's exciting for all of us.
Yeah, that sounds like an exciting acquisition. They're big companies, so that's huge opportunity. Okay, yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for catching us up. That's some really exciting changes on your end over there. Why don't we change gears a little bit and dive into the Hail Insurance 101 portion of our chat? Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. Can we commit to one another to try to make this discussion about Hail Insurance the most interesting, the most entertaining discussion that you've ever had on Hail Insurance? Because I got a feeling that sometimes maybe your listenership might just be going, Hail Insurance, what? Let's make it fun, and let's, anything's open for questions. So I'll start with the kind of highest level. We sell crop hail insurance. So farmers every year seed their acres. They've got tens, hundreds, thousands of dollars, in the field, and that crop is looking great. And a big black cloud comes, and my goodness, the entire thing's wiped out. And there is a lot of costs that go into, as your listenership will know, goes into seeding those acres and taking care of, the fertilizer. All of the input costs are extremely high, and now it's gone, and they've got bills to pay. So for many farmers, if they don't have hail insurance coverage, that's really their lifeline to get to the next season and beyond, is to have that insurance policy. And fortunately, we're able to be there for many hardworking farmers.
Excellent. And we always seem to think the moment we're in is the greatest, the biggest, the hardest. And there's always been challenges, always been hail. But it seems to me that the weather is, and I don't want to go climate change or any of that, but it just seems that the weather patterns are changing and becoming a little more extreme. So I'm excited for this conversation and the value of hail insurance, right?
Well, it's interesting you say that, Tracy, because last year a lot of farmers will have noticed that they were trying to get later season hail coverage, and many companies just couldn't service them. They basically ran out of stock. They said we're not selling any more policies, and there was a lot of panic in the industry last year.
Oh,
Most of it driven by the fact that higher commodity prices mean higher crop values, mean higher losses should you incur hail. So these guys were a lot of farmers were looking to say, listen, I no longer have $600-800 worth per acre out there. I might have $1,200, $1,400, $1,600 worth of crop out there. So you got to start thinking about, upping your insurance coverage. That's happening all the while, as you've just mentioned, many reinsurers, because every company that sells hail insurance is backed by a much bigger company. And they're essentially the ones that take all of the risk. They're also taking worldwide risks on many other facets of insurance. Whether it's property, casualty, there's car insurance. Let's face it, car insurance is a lot more predictable than crop hail insurance. So one of the things these big companies look at is, what is their exposure to weather-related, insurance, and shareholders of these big companies ask the same question. They say, hey, you're bringing in lots of premium dollars, but how much of that premium is really on risk of weather-related? So because tornadoes are up, hurricanes are up, flooding is up, wildfires are up. Let's face it, Alberta. So when you have companies now looking, saying, we're not going to have as much weather-related risk in our portfolio anymore, that really draws down on the available insurance coverage for companies. Now, that said, I'm pleased to say that this year Ag Direct, because of where we want to be in the marketplace, and with Hub's involvement, we've actually increased our capacity to sell more coverage this year. So that should relieve the pressure not only on the available capacity, but of course, anytime something's in short supply, that tends to drive the price up. And we've done a very good job at Ag Direct of being able to cap and hold the line on our rates this year as a result of that increased capacity. So it's kind of a win-win for us, win-win for your listenership.
okay, perfect. So let's talk about some of the technical details here, and then we'll get into some innovating stuff. How are basic rates determined?
That's a great question. So there's the Dominion land system, there's 8,500 townships across the prairies. And a township, as your listeners will know, is basically 6 miles by 6 miles. 1 square mile is a section. So you've got 36 sections in a 6 mile by 6 mile area. And that's basically, we call that a township. Okay, so there's 8,500 of those. We rate every single one of those, the risk of hail, we rate every single one of those separately and individually and distinctly. And that's rated based on hail data and history and incidence and frequency of hail storms in that particular township. And we have 35 plus years of data that goes back, and we really look at how much hail has fallen, the frequency, and of course the severity of that hail, and that all determines rates. So let's just say that there are places in Manitoba where our rates are as low as 1.8 or 1.9%.
Okay.
What that essentially means is, if you want to cover 1 acre and you want to put $100 of coverage on, meaning that if that 1 acre gets hailed out, you would get $100 for that coverage. That would cost you 1.8% of that, or $1.80. Well, so you start to think and say, well, I'll use 2% because it's easier math. So you sit there and say, so it's going to cost me $2 and I've got $100 of coverage. That means that essentially I can pay $2 every year for 50 years. And if I get hailed out just once, I get my $100 back. All right.
Yep.
That is a very low risk area. And there's a lot in Manitoba in particular that we have those low risk areas. You move across to Alberta, where you've got the Rocky Mountains, you've got the influence of different weather systems. We've got areas, we've got townships in Alberta where the rate is 15%. So you're paying $15 for $100 of coverage. Well, when you're paying 15 on 100, essentially that's about 7 times. Basically, what the math is saying is that once every 7 years, either in little pieces over the years or one big storm, you're going to lose your crop, and those are pretty daunting statistics. So when someone's looking at coverage, so we're looking at that history, we're looking at each individual township, and we're going to say, so when a farmer calls up and says, what's the rate in my area? We're going to say it's a 3.0. We're going to say it's a 4%. It's a 2.8. And that again determines the risk. Obviously, it's like, I don't know, it's like roulette to some degree, Tracy. At the end of the day, there's always a couple of extra squares for the house to win, because if we match the rate exactly to the potential for hail, we wouldn't make any money. So there's always a little bit of, we expect to pay out this much, but we're going to bring it a little bit more because you do it. You obviously want to make a profit at some point. But our goal is to keep those rates that as sharp as we can, that really truly almost emulate the potential and risk of a hail incident for that farmer.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was good. That was the most interesting explanation on basic rates ever. Way to go, Bruce. Okay, so why don't we talk about the type of crop, and then we'll move into the factors that farmers need to consider.
Yep, let's do that. So there are surcharges associated with certain crops.
Okay.
So most cereals, oats, barley, wheat, flax, they don't have there's no upcharge. The charge, we call it the basic rates. When I told you it was a 3%, it's 3%. There are crops that have a surcharge associated with it, and it's a multiple of that rate. So for example, and I don't have them all in my head, that's why we have a very sophisticated software package, but let's just say that peas are 1.5 times the basic rate. So what does that mean? Well, that means if the basic rate is 3% or $3 for every $100 of coverage, we talked about that before, now you have to take that 3% and multiply it by the P factor of 1.5. So now the P rate is actually 4.5% or $4.50 for every $100 of coverage. Well, why is peas peas cost more than wheat, for example? Well, simply put, certain crops, especially later in the season, become far more susceptible to any sort of hail damage. Depending, the severity almost starts to become irrelevant, because you get late season hail on peas that are ready to come off, and just a little bit of hail will shell the peas out and you lose your entire pea crop. Whereas something else like your wheat or barley will certainly withstand that hail event better than you will on some other more vulnerable late season crops. Make sense?
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, did you have anything to add before we move to factors for farmers?
I talked about peas, so I think I'm out of gas on that story.
Okay. Okay. Then the next one we want to chat about is, what are the factors that farmers want to consider when determining how much hail insurance they need?
I get this question all the time. People say, hey, Bruce, how much is other people putting on? How much should I put on? What should I? And it's a really, I always say it's a really a personal decision. Because if you're going to buy hail insurance, I always kind of look at it as 3 levels of coverage. The first level is you've got your input costs, whether it's $150 or $200 an acre in seed, fertilizer, and all those other things, you've invested money in that crop. So if you lose that crop, you want at least that money back. So next year you have the same money to go again and replant and reseed and go at it for another year. Some guys have other bills like mortgage payments. They've got their equipment. They might have loans, line of credit on equipment. So they also have some other fixed costs associated with running their farm beyond just the input costs. So they said, you know what, I'm going to go not only the 150 an acre, but I'm going to add another 100 bucks an acre, $250 of coverage, because I want not only the input cost, but I need some walking and talking money to pay some of these bills that I have going into the season if I don't have a crop. Then you've got the guys that are probably most vulnerable, and they say, if I lose any of this crop, I could be in trouble because I've got payments to make, I've got employees to pay, I've got all these bills coming in. And unfortunately, some of the young guns, fall into that. I call them the young guns, the young farmers, where maybe they might be a little bit more leveraged, financially, and they need. So if they've got a canola crop out there, they've got some peas, lentils, whatever, and they're looking at saying, that's a nice looking crop. I get that to market. I'm going to make, depending on the prevailing price of canola and lentils, or there's literally hundreds of dollars in 1 acre out there. They got to start thinking maybe insuring at more of the crop value. So if they've got a crop out there that's going to deliver 800 bucks an acre, and they've got 1,000 acres, they've got $800,000 sitting out there. They may want to insure up to $800 an acre. So if they get completely wiped out, they've got their $800,000, and it's either I've got my crop or I've got the 800. But either way, I still have my 800. So really personal decision. Some guys will add deductible options and do different things like that to kind of mitigate some of the payments that they have to make. Some leveraging there, but again, a very personal decision.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for explaining that. You kind of started into my next question, deductible as part of the hail insurance policy. Do you want to speak to that?
Mm-hmm. It's nothing. It's just nothing short of in a car, an auto policy. Typically they'll offer, do you want a $500 deductible, $1,000? Well, nowadays, you get nothing on a car for $1,000 deductible. You can scratch your side view mirror and it costs $1,000. But so basically it's saying, how much of the risk are you willing to offset? How much would you be willing to pay if you have a claim before we kick in and start to pay? So I'll take, for example, our most popular is a 10% deductible option. That means that, so in a full coverage policy, our policies start paying at damage that's 5% or greater. We don't pay on 1%, 2%, 3% damage. But in return, on the top end, if you have 85% or more damage, we write the entire field off and pay you 100. So we won't pay you on the first 4.9 or whatever, but we'll also pay you on the top end the entire amount. So it kind of balances out that way. But if you take a deductible option and say a 10% deductible, that assumes that you're going to take and pay the 10% of the loss that you have. So for example, you have a hailstorm and you lost 10% of your crop. Well, 10 plus minus the 10% deductible you agreed to pay, you're going to get exactly zero on that. If you have 20% damage, you're going to get 20 minus the 10 that you agreed to pay, you're going to end up getting paid 10. Okay. So it's a way of as I said, I'll assume some of the risk. Now to do that with our straight hail policy, our straight 10, for example, the premiums drop by 30%. So now you've got a guy and you say, okay, my policy is going to be $10,000. And incidentally, Tracy, I should say the average policy is in around $15,000 to $18,000, depending on the province. So you can see, the hail insurance can be very costly. Some of the policies can run. We have policies in there, $200,000 to $300,000 that farmers will pay for coverage on some big operations. So, if I had a $10,000 policy at full coverage, getting paid at 5% or greater, and I click the 10% deductible, you're going to see that premium drop down to $7,000. Okay, it's a nice savings and it's tempting, but you also got to remember on the back end you're gonna get paid less. Okay, What some guys will do, and it's an interesting strategy that I actually like, and that is to say, okay, I want to spend 10,000 on insurance. So yeah, I put 10 on, pay the deductible, and let's just say that for $10,000, I was able to put, $200 per acre of coverage on. Now I collect the deductible and I save myself $3,000. Well, I still want to pay 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up my coverage to $260 an acre. It's still out, I'm still out of pocket the $10,000, but now I've got $260 of coverage per acre, not 200. Well, what does that mean to the farmer? In the very simplest terms, 30% is the break-even point. And what I mean by that is, if you buy a deductible option, this is very, very important for your listeners to understand, because I think it's a great strategy to employ. If you have a 10% straight deductible policy, and you put and you spend the same amount versus someone that spent a full coverage policy, you both spent $10,000 on your policy, you've got 260, they've only got 200, full coverage deductible, 30% loss is the break-even point. And what I mean by that, if both farmers incur a 30% hail event damage, it didn't matter. They're gonna basically, what they get and what they paid out, there's no difference. If it's less than 30% damage, the guy that had the full coverage policy will end up being better off than the guy with the deductible policy. However, if the hail event is more than 30% loss, the guy with the deductible policy will make out it was better for him to have the deductible. So what you're doing with the deductible, if you spend the same $10,000, is taking out some of the money you would have got down here, but putting it up here. So what you're doing is, the greater the loss, the more you're going to get, and you're just taking some of that payout and moving it up a little bit, which is a great strategy for someone that says, I've been in this for a long time, I have some really good financial, I'm pretty stable, but I want my hail coverage. I'm okay with the smaller ones, but the big ones I really want to make sure I'm covered for, and that's the way to do it. The other question that you have to ask yourself is, for a lot of guys, they've lived in the same places, their family have been farming in there for years, and you ask yourself, in this township, in the area we farm in, do we tend to get a sprinkle of hail every once in a while, like a 10-15% loss, it's no big deal? Or when it comes, like we never really have so if it's when it comes, I'd probably use the deductible option. But if it's a sprinkle every few years of a little bit here and there, I might not use, I'd go the full coverage, because I'm never going to go over that 30% break-even threshold. Okay. Long story, Tracy, and I hope we didn't lose any of your listeners on that, but that's very important for farmers to understand.
Okay, that's good to know. And I know later we'll talk about it, and I assume there's people to help farmers make these decisions, but let's leave that for a little later. We'll keep on stepping through. Okay, we made all the important decisions, rates, all that good stuff. We bought our policy. Hail happens. What happens from that point?
Yeah, and every company is different, but I believe that we have some of the best claims coordinating, some of the best adjusters, and this is another strength of Ag Direct. So they essentially, a farmer will either give us a call on the toll free and say, I had hail. And I've taken those calls myself. Tough calls to take. All you can do is reassure them you're covered. We've got your back. We're going to be there for you. Or alternatively, they just go online into their account and they click on file a claim, and they hit and click on the crops that were hit by hail. We receive that in our claims office. Our head claims coordinator will then assign it. Typically, if it's not Beth, it'll be Megan or Sarah, and they will call the farmer and say, we've got it. Okay. Here's what we're looking at. We're going to be in that area because we had, 80 other claims in that area, whatever the number is. We're probably going to be there the Monday after next week. Our goal is to be out there within 2 weeks of the storm. That's our internal goal to do that. So we then let the farmer know when approximately we're going to be doing that adjustment. As the time nears, we're going to call that farmer back up and say, listen, we're thinking Tuesday morning, we get a good, nice early start. Are you good with that date? We always like the farmer to come out with us, Tracy. It's so important. It's their crop. Like, yes. We want to show them what we see. because our adjusters are professional, they're well trained, and we really want to make sure the farmer understands, here's what we see. Do you agree? And we settle. I can say this, because of our strategy and the way we do things, we've now had in our 10-year, this is our 10-year anniversary, we've now had probably in the neighborhood of 7,000 or 8,000 claims. We've only had 2 that have ever gone to appraisal. And that is a remarkable number. And that's a testament to the skill and commitment and thorough loss adjusting that our guys do.
Okay. Okay, so the farmer comes out, only a small amount ever go to appraisal. Can you explain that then, how that's different?
Yeah, well, so what ends up happening, there's always recourse. A farmer needs to know, another nugget for your listeners, they don't have to sign. Okay. If they don't agree with what the adjuster has come up with their loss award, they don't ever have to sign. And it happens relatively infrequently with us. And as I said, and I can't speak for other companies, I'm going to speak for AgDirect. We want to show you the damage. So if you come out with us and we've shown you, at the end of the day, why wouldn't you agree? Well, it is what it is. I see what you see, and let's go ahead and get it done. If for some reason a farmer doesn't agree with the adjuster, we internally have a process where our claims manager comes out. Very infrequently, we move to a stage where the claims manager will go out and have a look at it. I'll just say our claims manager, Bailey Shikanik, I believe is the most intelligent, smartest, fairest, highest integrity, strong character, wonderful gentleman that you'll ever come across. So he'll come out and meet with the farmer and see what we see. And at the last resort, if no one wants to agree, and I'm just going to say this, Tracy, sometimes it's just the way it goes, right? Someone just they want to take the gloves off and they want to rip the sweater over your head and they want to go at it. If it happens, it's happened a couple of times to us, then there's a process where the farmer has to get an independent adjuster. We get one from an independent company and they go and meet and they go through and see what they see. And I'll just say this, the 2 that we had, we settled, we won. I don't want to say we won both of them because it doesn't sound right, but it ruled in our favor. So I guess at the end of the day, we never wanted to get to that point. It's at the end of the day, it should be about, and our motto is very simple. We say we want to put a check in that farmer's hand that fairly and accurately reflects their loss, and it's that simple. It doesn't get any more easy than that. So,
well, and I think that's proper business too, because if you're always out, any company that's always out to short the farmer, well, that's fine. You can short the farmer here, but you lose the farmer, right? So at the end of the day, that's why I brought you guys on. I love the explanation you gave, Hail Insurance 101. I brought you guys on the show to talk about the work you're doing, your team, AgDirect Hail, the acquisition, and how you guys try and operate a little bit different. So I love how you wrap that last point up, because you're there for the farmer, right? That's what we should be there for.
Well, that's, as I said, that's probably, I feel being in this industry and being with AgDirect and doing what we do, I don't know if there's any other role or business or job or career I could have where I feel so fortunate and motivated, and it's a really good feeling, because at the end of the day, yeah, someone's bought Hail Insurance, didn't have Hail, they'll always say, because listen, I have to buy car insurance, house insurance, you don't use it every year, you write that check, but the one time that you get into a fender bender or something happens, you want to know that your insurance company is there. And for a lot of these guys, the risk is just way too high. And I say, hey, sleep well at night by having coverage, putting coverage with the right company, and knowing that if you have a hail event, we're there, we're going to take care of it for you. And we don't want, we know the coffee shop chatter that'll go on so easily when our goal is to, because listen, when there's a hail event in a specific area, there's usually multiple claims. We'll have multiple claims, and we also know some of our competitors have claims. And then guess what? These guys are all down at the coffee shop talking, and they're saying, what? You already got your check from AgDirect? Oh yeah, I got it last week. I'm still waiting for my check. And these are the kind of comparisons. And they say, oh, my adjuster was, we want to be that company where they say, I knew when the guy was coming. He showed up on time. He did a thorough inspection, and I got a check that fairly represented my loss, and I got that check quick. That's the way it should be. So, and I never want to. That makes me feel so good inside when I can see, and I'm at trade shows in the off season. I'm in Brandon at the trade show there. I'm in Saskatoon, Regina, Lethbridge, Red Deer, and I love when these guys come by and they say, "Hey, I had hail. You took care of me," and that makes me feel good.
Good. Okay. As I mentioned, the point of our show here is to bring on companies that are doing great things in the industry, impacting farmers, helping them succeed, really. Companies, professionals that share their knowledge. And I'm happy that you shared a little bit about what sets you guys apart. If you want to touch on that a little bit more, go ahead. If not, we'll move into buying insurance through Ag Direct Hail and how it works.
Well, I'll say this about what you just asked, and that is, when we started this 10 years ago, we said our goal is to forever change the crop hail insurance landscape by offering competitive rates, superior customer service, professional claims handling. That was always what we said we wanted to do. And for the most part, we've delivered on that. Does everyone have bumps in the road? Absolutely. But we have such a team. Beth, Bailey, all of us were here from day one. Ellen, Sarah, Megan. It's amazing that and some of the adjusters. Well, I shouldn't say some. The vast majority of adjusters we've had with us for the entire time as well. And it's that sense of team that we have, and people know each other. So I love the customer service hates when I pick up the phone all the time because they want to pick up the phone. It's like boom. It's like, hey, can we pick up the phone? It's like, but we pick up the phone. Why? Because it's not usually it's usually someone saying I need help, and who doesn't want to help somebody, Tracy? If you pick up the phone and say, can you help me? The obvious answer is yes, I can. Let me see what I can do. And that feels good. And you go through the entire day helping people, the day flies by like that. So anyway, sorry, I'll stop. I can go on about that because that's who we are and what we do. So
I like that. And I'll pump your tires a little bit. I haven't dealt with you guys, but just from what you say and taking that at face value, I'm a farmer myself and a business person aside from the farm. And I find in this day and age, with companies being acquired, with companies being big, it's hard to keep the same people in the same roles. And as a farmer, let's call it a bank really quick. Bruce, bear with me, because what you said there, if I'm a farmer listening, not trying to pump your tires, but from my shoes, when I go into a bank and it's a new lender every year, every 6 months, okay, fine. I assume they know their job, but it's just not the same feeling. You can tell it's just a role. Maybe they don't get you as a farmer. There's not that continuity. So when you were saying that, and I guess I'll pump your tires and how it sounds that you guys operate, when you have people that are there and consistent and have been there for a long time, that usually equates to the customer being handled more professionally in a manner that feels like we matter, right? So anyways, I like that. When I heard that, to me, that's kind of cool because a lot of businesses I go to as a business owner, sorry, don't mean to go on, but it's a little bit of a hot spot for me. When I go in to get a bank loan at this bank, I bank in a few different places, and it's a revolving door. It's like, who are you? There's been like 15 people since I've been in here last. You don't get it. You don't know me. And then I go to this bank where I've had the same guy for years on end. And then you just pick up and it's like, okay, they get me. They know me. I feel a little bit different. But anyways, those are those.
yeah, I
Right?
can't agree with you. We could do a whole show on that,
Yeah.
Tracy, because I can't agree with you more. And that's when I made the call to Beth and Bailey and Sarah, Megan, Ellen, when we all talked about coming back and I don't want to say get Ag Direct back on track, but just get it to, it just inject that passion that we all had and felt in working in the teamwork that we had. And everyone said, they all felt like I did. We all felt like we had unfinished business because we stepped away for these reasons. Now those reasons aren't there anymore. We've got a clear path to go back here. And we all said, why wouldn't we? Like we loved what we did, and we're all here again. I don't even. It's strange to think that some of the the biggest pieces to Ag Direct weren't there, and now we're all back together. And after this short time, it's a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. I love that. So I want to buy hail insurance. I go to Ag Direct Hail. How does it work? Let's talk about deadlines, customer service. Who do we call? How do we make claims? All that good stuff.
Yep. So it all starts with going to the Ag Direct Hail website, agdirecthail.com. Very simple. And there's going to be two buttons. I'm an existing registrant. I have an account, okay, or I'm a visitor. If you've had an account, you're going to log in with your email and password. If you haven't, you're going to click on I'm a visitor, and we're going to say, set up an email and a password. There's no obligation. It's basically that allows you access into the system. Once you're there, from the main menu bar, it's very simple. It says home, rates, apply, my account, file a claim, or contact us. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So, and it flows that way. So, I want to check rates. So you click rates, enter your township. I'm in 2213 west of 1. There's your basic rate. How much would I have to pay if it was peas? Select the pea crop. And the pea surcharge comes up. And it does the calculation for you. You go, you know what? I like these rates. I like them a lot. I think I'll go home rates, apply. So I'm going to click on apply. And that's where you enter your personal details. That's where you enter your crop details. 160 acres of canola on the northwest of 318.5 west of 2. And I want to put $100 an acre on, whatever. We will go to $500 an acre of coverage. Okay. You build your application. Now you look at it. Do I want to add a deductible or no deductible? I want full coverage. What do I want to do? Once you determine that, yes, I want to buy this, you move it through to the payment page where we take check, credit card, online banking, or e-transfer. You decide how you want to do the transaction, and you pay for the policy. You immediately get an email notification saying we have your application and or we have your payment if you use the credit card. As long as you put the policy on before midnight Central Time, your policy is on for noon the following day. Okay. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to customers at 11 o'clock at night, and they're just, Bruce, my credit card, I'm sure it's fine. It should work. Why isn't, it's supposed to hail tomorrow afternoon. It's storms coming in. No problem. We got it taken care of. So in those cases, I'll just say, tell you what, put it pay by check. So your policy is on as of noon tomorrow. You don't want to do a check. You want to do credit card. I hear you loud and clear. We'll sort it out later in the week or early next week. We'll get it on a credit card. Those are the kind of things we'll do for our customers. So now you've got the policy in place and life's good. Everything's going through. You have a hail event, log on, email, password, file a claim, crop lines come up, click, click, click. This is the time and date of storm, submit it, and then we're on it. So we get compliments all the time about how easy it is. Tracy, if you're a returning customer with us and you've got, 30, 40, 50, 80, you've got 3 bank accounts. So I'm going to assume you got a lot of land. I'm just joking. But if you've got 30, 40, if you've got 30 or 40 or 50 crop lines, and every year you got to enter in, we have a feature. We just copy last year's information. And boom, it starts up there, and there's the 50 lines of crop. So now you go, okay, on the northwest of 13.85, west of 2. This year it's 155 acres of canola, and I want to put $100 on. Next line, and you can literally complete your policy in 10, 15 minutes. It's that simple. So, and then all the while, you have any questions, our toll-free number is all over that. And you give us a call toll-free. We're here in season from 8 in the morning all the way up until midnight. We're here 16 hours a day. We're here on the weekends. We're here on the holidays, because at the end of the day, as I said, I've taken those panic calls where someone wants to put coverage on and they're worried about something. They leave it to the very last minute, which drives me crazy, but that's the way people are. They leave it to the very last minute, and all of a sudden they go, you know what? We're supposed to get thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. I haven't done my hail coverage yet. And that's when the scramble starts. And but guess what? We're here for them. So we've got, as I said, Sarah, Megan, Lori, Ellen, me. We're all here ready to go. So
I love that. And it's funny. I'm an online person, get it done, but I'm picturing myself going through this process. I go online, I create an account, I'm very visual. So now I have a feeling, I've mapped it out. But then, and here's where I like the customer service part, because it seems like there's a bit of a knowing there, like a level and a coverage. You're okay if I pick up the phone and say, hi, so-and-so, can you help me? Where's my best coverage? This is about what I picked. Can they walk me through? Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. And it's common questions we get are, do I have to put the same amount on every crop? It's absolutely not. If you want to do 100 on your cereals and 300 in your pulses, do whatever you want. Everything is customizable right down, and you can enter it in quarter sections. You can enter it in halves. If you're farming the entire section, it's 640 acres, maybe only 600. You just do the whole section. If the crop's the same, I got 600 acres of canola on all of this, so you can minimize the amount of data entry. And then I always get the question too, do I have to do all of my crops? Absolutely not. If you only want to do, some people say, I've got this piece of land that always seems to get hit. The other one never seems. Well, just insure that one then. If you want coverage, take that one and mitigate some of the risks. So everything you do is customizable to what your situation. If you want to put a deductible on your cereals, but full coverage on your pulses, do that. But all the while, as I said, you want some questions. All of the people that answer the phone are licensed hail agents. We've all done the exam. We all, and none of us get paid commission. It's not about who gets to answer the phone and who it's not about that at all. So it's about helping the customer with the best information to make the best possible choices.
Okay, perfect. I realize I have a glaringly obvious question that we didn't cover. This is any Canadian farmer. Do you guys go outside of Canada? Two-part question there.
That's it. We're actually, because now with the acquisition by Hub, they're they're the fifth largest brokerage in the world. So there are other opportunities. My focus right now is servicing the hardworking farmers on the prairies. So we do Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta exclusively for hail coverage, and that's what we do. That's my world. So what we ultimately end up doing somewhere else is someone else's concern. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But
I didn't know
we
it.
do, just to give you an idea, and someone, the entire farming community on the prairies will spend upwards of $350 million in premium on hail coverage this year. So that's quite a big number. So it's not, you think of, I often say, people bump into people and say, what do you do? I said, well, I work for a couple of hail companies, and they said, hail insurance for crops, is that a thing? It's like, yes, it's a thing you don't really think about. Yeah, it's a big thing. It's a $350 million thing. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. I wanted to clarify because we do have listeners across Canada and even other countries. So thank you for answering that. Mm-hmm. Final words of wisdom, encouragement, final tidbits that you'd like to share with farmers that are listening.
Get it on early. Don't leave it till the end. For starters, if they're in an area with a lot of hail, every company has capacity. So one thing I'll say, and I didn't talk about this, is everyone's concerned with what's called spread of risk, Tracy. We don't want too much business in certain pockets in big townships all in a clump, because if a storm comes, you could get hit and lose a lot within that township. So most companies like Ag Direct will insure up to $2 million in one township. So of liability, meaning in that 6 by 6 mile, in that 36 sections, will cover for 2 million. So if that up to 2 million. So if we get hailed out there, we're on the hook for $2 million. So it's not ideal that if you have these clumps of business. So we insure up to $500 an acre. I think I mentioned that before. With 21,600 acres in a township at $100 an acre coverage, that's just over 2 million. So we can essentially do an entire township for $100 an acre. Other companies are similarly capped. So there's times when they may come to us and say, hey, can I buy? I can tell you down in Crystal City, Manitoba, in townships 110 and 111, 210, I have them to the top of my head. We're out of stock every year. I want to share one more really interesting nugget, Tracy, and that is we do a thing called reserve liability for our customer, because such an overwhelming number of our customers come back year after year. And we want them, like you were talking about the bank. You would just want a comfy old pair of slippers. We like that as well. So if you bought $1 million of coverage in a township, we reserve that for you next year. So that's being held for you. So right now, we won't sell that coverage to anyone else in your township until June 9th is our date. So it basically what we're saying is we're not interested in any more new business. We want Tracy's business again. Now, if Tracy doesn't want to buy with us after June 9th, we'll release it to other people, but we do reserve it. So, but if you're someone that's new or someone we're looking for coverage and just want that peace of mind early, just put it on, get it on, and forget about it. Then you got to move on to something else, and then you can watch hockey and stuff. So
there we go. Okay, that's a good point. That's a neat business practice. Okay, Bruce, we got through it all. That was, I'm going to say, a fun conversation about insurance. Not that I don't think insurance is fun, but it can be very technical. And I've enjoyed this conversation, educational. And you know what I like too is, again, we're a media company that helps farmers succeed. We're mission based. And I like learning about a culture of a business because, wow, it's always nice as a farmer to hear when you have somebody that seems like they're on your side, right? Trying to help you. So thank you so much for educating, sharing, and joining us this week. I really appreciate it.
Well, Tracy, if I could just add that you and your show invaluable to hardworking prairie farmers and beyond. And I hope they found it of interest. They can just Google agdirecthail.com. Give us a call toll free. Chances are, if they call, I'll pick up the phone. But I'm going to say this on behalf of your listeners: thank you for what you do. You do a great job.
Thanks, Bruce. I really appreciate that. I love what I do too, so it makes a difference. I will make sure to put some links to your website and anything else relevant in the show notes, just so you know, Bruce, if you're listening, watching, then just go to Farm Marketer, Impact Farming, find this episode, and then you'll get quick links to Ag Direct Hail. Bruce, thanks again. I really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. And you in the audience, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, found it educational, share it, get it out there so other farmers can learn about hail insurance and the great work that Ag Direct Hail is doing. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.